Here's Brody Brazil.
So I'll say this to you. It's something I said to somebody else recently, that if I were just getting into baseball, I had no allegiance, I had no team, I had no background, no nothing, and I just had to pick a team to say, all right, those are my guys. I'm not even kidding to say right now, I might go with the Baltimore Orioles, knowing what I know, knowing where they're at, knowing where they could be in the next handful of years. Sell me on that. Am I right about kind of like that idea?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this team is loaded with talent, a lot of competitive guys, a lot of guys that played together too. And the one thing that you can't quantify is chemistry. You gotta enjoy the people that you're working with. Sometimes you go to work and you're not gonna like everybody. The Orioles are authentic. There's a culture there that's been built, and a lot of it was guys coming through the system together, and then you bring in some great veterans. But the Orioles' star power is, ridiculous. And there was two moments that I've had in my professional career where I had the oh crap moment. And again, there's a lot of great players, but I started my career with the Nationals organization. That player over there that I played with was Juan Soto, and it went, hey, you're different. That's ridiculous. And I remember that the Nationals were telling me the first time Juan Soto came to America for instructional league down in Florida. And we're out there, we see Juan catching some fly balls at 17. And one of the coordinators or coaches comes over and goes, yeah, that's the best hitter in the organization, including the big leagues. And Bryce Harper's on the team. We're calling bull crap on that. No way.
Yeah, they saw
and
it.
And then behold, and then I get to be around him more. I go, man, this guy's special and different. I told all my friends that, and then he helps the Nats win the World Series in 19. Flash forward, there's another player. And I'm sitting down there in spring training, and that's Gunnar Henderson. And in 2021, coming out of COVID, just seeing what Gunnar did and was doing at such a young age, it was that you're different type of moment. And right now, Gunnar's off to a great start, and I think he can very well win the MVP this year. I made a prediction within 5 years before he made his debut in Baltimore. I had to change it during midway last season and going, I think he's going to do it within his next 2 years.
Wow.
Just how talented. And then that's the tip of the iceberg, because then you look around at the rest of the team that has these veteran players that are playing extremely well. And then you have guys like Kowser, Westberg, and then there's other prospects that are sitting down there. Jackson Holliday is one of those that's trying to find his footing. So when you look at that, the abundance of talent is unlike any organization right now. So if I'm selling that, young players that it's not guaranteed that they're all going to figure out how to be all-star big league players. But I will say this, I think the Orioles have a better chance than any team out there with the blueprint they have to go out there and be the team to beat in the AL East for the next decade, and hopefully be one of the teams that represents the American League in the World Series.
I mean, even if some of those names that you're mentioning there pan out and they hit, not even all of them or most of them, even if some of them pan out, this Orioles team is only going to get a lot better. And you mentioned Henderson, who is the shortstop, who's hitting .309 this season at last check. The point I wanted to make is that this Orioles team has key young players at key positions. If I could, can we just dive through a couple names here and you kind of give me the season take or the career take? Like Adley Rutschman, the catcher, hitting .327 right now. Is he the default leader of this team because he was kind of one of the first to emerge?
Yeah, you know what, people, if you look back when the Baltimore Orioles team in the big league shifted, it was Adley Rutschman's debut. Since Adley Rutschman debuted, the Orioles have not been swept in any regular season series. I preface that because they did get swept by the eventual World Series champs, Texas Rangers. But
knock on wood. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. But the Rangers, hey, by the way, I tell people this, the Rangers won 11 straight road games in the playoffs, which is just Beside that, they were the best team at the right time.
Absolutely.
They were the best team at the right time. But as far as these Orioles concerned, and one point I wanted to touch on when you said you don't know if all are going to hit, I look at guys when you have a lot of talent, it's almost like having lottery tickets.
Right.
You know, you hope that one's going to work out, but you don't know.
Right.
But the Orioles have a lot of lottery tickets, so they have a lot more chances to have a couple of them or even more than that pan out. But besides Gunnar Henderson, you have other guys, and this is why the Orioles are so dangerous. You look at their lineup 1 through 9, and you have Jordan Westberg hitting a lot of games in the 8 hole. And Jordan Westberg's up there almost near the leaderboard in home runs for the team, RBIs. he's just a gamer. Then you have Colton Cowser, that was the 4th outfielder going into the season trying to find his role, and he has been red hot, was the American Player of the Week, and then Jordan Westberg was the American Player of the Week after. So you have those players right there. Adley Rutschman obviously is the foundational piece that we mentioned, that I tell people this. When I watched Adley, I didn't have any wow moment with Adley. And they go, well, wait a minute, Ryan, he's number 1 overall pick. I go, well, here's the thing. You get to the big leagues, you're usually good. Like, you're either ridiculously good at one or you're really great at 2 things. Adley's just good at 10 different things.
Yeah.
Like, you go and look at his game and you go, oh, you're good at this. You're good at framing. You're good at calling the game. You're good at controlling the run game. Oh, you have a great eye at the plate. You are a good contact hitter. Oh, you can hit for power. And you look up and go, man, that's a complete player. That's Adley Rutschman. And he kind of reminds me in a sense with Buster Posey. That's the comp that a lot of people give him. And I see it. It's just that leadership component. But here's the other part. We talked about some of these young players. Then people forget Cedric Mullins is in the outfield, who to me right now is the best defensive center fielder at the current moment. And when he's healthy, he's not far removed from having 30 home runs, 30 doubles, 30 stolen bases. And he looks healthy this year. And then Anthony Santander in right field for them. Ironically, with all this talent the Orioles have, the number 1 offensive producer for the Orioles the last 2 seasons has been Anthony Santander. He's averaging over 30 home runs and has led the team in RBIs the last 2 seasons. And that's just not even, like I said, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. And that's where this Orioles lineup, you have this balance of players where they can plug and play people depending on the matchup, and they're going to be okay. Ryan Mountcastle, Ryan O'Hearn, Austin Hayes didn't get off to a great start, but he's an all-star that's going to get a reset from his injury, and then he jumps into a team that's already talented. So I know I rambled on with that.
No,
but
I get it.
Like there's just so many different players that the Orioles have. And the one name that I'll tell people right now, Heston Kjerstad just got called up to the big leagues. He had 10 home runs and 30 RBIs in 21 games. And this guy, for me, can challenge any of the Orioles' offensive power players. He can match them, I believe, and I think he's going to be a big part of the team moving forward.
What you're doing right now reminds me of how I was with the Oakland A's maybe 2017, 18 or so, when you started to see it all come together. We got this guy named Matt Chapman. There's Matt Olson. Wait till you see Sean Murphy. Marcus Semien has already come together. This Ramon Laureano guy is pretty good. So I sense the excitement. I know why you feel it, because you're starting to really see all the pieces come together. I want to bring up Jackson Holliday, who you mentioned. Now, a couple weeks ago when he came up, made the debut, like number 1 prospect in the system. Everybody's hyped, and we know his lineage and all that stuff. But at last check, 2 for his first 34. So it's kind of weird. On one hand, you know what he's bound to be. He's going to be a really good player, but he's going through this initial struggle that is atypical. It's uncharacteristic. What do you see in him right now, and maybe how he's just handling this and how he'll eventually be?
Well, I think he's handled it really well. For being 20 years old, I think we got to sit back there. And if anyone can go back to their own lives, if you are now moved forward, I'm 30 now, but I remember at 20, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just starting my professional career with the Nationals.
Yeah.
And here's Jackson Holliday being asked to be on one of the best teams in the American League with all this hype and expectations. And here's another thing. When you're that young and it's as talented as he is, he got up there that quickly because he really didn't fail much.
Yeah.
Right. His only time failing probably in his professional or even amateur career is at the big league level.
Right now.
That's where.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you look at a lot of players that are phenoms, they go through the struggles. I even brought up the point because, again, I know him, Calvin Edwin Ripken Jr., and I know his story pretty well. I remember his rookie year, he was 3 for 5 on opening day, and he felt great. And then guess what? He went 4 for his next 55
Oof.
and was hitting a $117 into May. And that was frustrating for him. And again, my dad didn't really have that struggle, and the Orioles stuck with him. And he figured it out, ended up winning Rookie of the Year. Gunnar Henderson actually last year was hitting 170 midway through May with 3 home runs. He goes on to win the American League Rookie of the Year, and now he's an MVP candidate. Jackson, I think if you just look at his box score, you're going to go, man, strikeouts are high. He's not doing enough. You need to send him down. Sample size, it's 10, 11 games, whatever it's been now.
Sure.
And if you watch his at-bats, he's having some really competitive at-bats. Pitchers are making some very tough pitches. And then, like last game, he hit 2 balls right on the screws. One's a base hit, one's off the pitcher that goes right to the second baseman, and he's thrown out at first on a bang bang play. What I love with Jackson is I think he understands that the moment's coming. And actually, a former Oriole named Jerry Harrison Jr. with the Dodgers and I think the Orioles, Yankees, and now he works for the Dodgers.
Yep.
He said this quote perfectly. You know, the best in the world are going to struggle. Aaron Judge, over the same span that Jackson was 1 for 24, Aaron Judge was 1 for 24 with 14 strikeouts. I think Mason Miller added to that number in New York, to be honest, to close out the game.
He did.
So the context of this is the best in the world are going to struggle. Yes, Judge is an MVP and Jackson's an unproven rookie, but you got to give guys time. It's magnified because of everything. But no doubt in my mind, the storm's coming for Jackson Holliday. And I really think with the Orioles letting him get through this, it's only going to make him better. And also it helps that the team is playing extremely well so it can take that other pressure off of him when the team's winning the games.
Trust the process, as they say. You know, the AL East is a headache right now. I think the Yankees are on top with 17 wins, but who's the last place team? It's Tampa with like 12 or 13 wins. So like 4 or 5 wins separate the first place team from the last place team. I think almost everybody has a winning record in the division, but this is kind of always the way it's been for the Orioles, because if the Yankees weren't good that year, then the Red Sox were good that year. And if they weren't good, then the Blue Jays were good, or Tampa was doing their thing. So, I mean, you talk about the Orioles and the Oriole way and turning things around and the next chapter, but let's face it, the Orioles are always going to be up against the heaviest hitters in Major League Baseball in terms of payroll, organizations, talent, everything. So how do you as an Orioles person view that part of it?
Well, I think you're right. I call it's the AL Beast. It's a gauntlet of a schedule, and they're playing less divisional games now, and people can go, well, wait a minute, it's overrated.
Right.
Now, you go play in this division, and you got to play 5 good teams. That's the division. Every team in this division is good. Tampa Bay has been, ravaged with injuries last year, and even part of this year. They make trades, but I tell people, you probably can't name 5 Tampa Bay Rays unless you're watching them on a day-to-day basis, but they compete because they understand, hey, we're not going to spend a ton of money going out to get guys, but we've developed an organizational system that's going to help us when guys got to come up to play, they're ready. Now, Tampa Bay right now this year might not be as favorable as a team as they were last year or the year before. Still a really good team. But you're right, Boston, New York especially. I know Boston's in this weird phase right now, but they're going to be back. They're going to spend more, and so are the Yankees. You saw it. Their expectations, and they weren't hitting those expectations last year. So what they do, they go and make a splash and go get Juan Soto. They hope Carlos Rodon comes back and can be the guy that they hope, and Garrett Cole is not even pitching, and they're still winning games.
Right.
But the Soto effect's real.
Yeah.
And they have 2 of the, in my opinion, 2 of the 10 best players in all the world in the middle of their lineup. And you can argue those are 2 of the top 5 hitters in all baseball when they're on their A game. So for the Orioles, I think that they have to take the approach of the Rays, where they said, hey, we know we're going to have to spend money at some point, but we're never going to be able to spend that same money that the Yankees and Red Sox do. So how do we do that? We need to have our homegrown talent. And if you looked at the Orioles roster and their lineups recently, there's a lot of homegrown players in their lineup. I think the other day it was 8 of the 9 starters were from their were from their own system. And that's going to be their level of success moving forward, is these talented players coming through. That's how you're going to combat a team like the Yankees that's going to go out there and spend a lot. And no matter what, it's the bar is set high in the American League East. And you got to find your own ways to keep up. And I think that's going to be the Orioles' way to keep up moving forward.
A big foundational piece, I think, of the Orioles franchise is actually their ballpark. I had the honor of going there maybe year 2 or 3 of its existence, and Camden Yards has just always been, it's the original. It's the original throwback ballpark. Every other ballpark, almost every other one since then, has copied something off of Camden Yards. And it's not just the warehouse, but it's the old ballpark style and the dark green seats. And I know it's evolved and even changed over the years, but have you ever thought about what the Orioles would be if they didn't have Camden Yards? I mean, it's such a great place for the fans. I think it has obviously been more than a home to them. I mean, what would it be like if that team didn't have a ballpark like Camden Yards?
I mean, it transformed everything.
Yeah.
You know, it transformed the team, transformed the city. You know, it brought even more character to it. And Memorial Stadium, the Orioles' old ballpark, had a lot of great memories and a lot of success, right? But as far as foundational, one of it wasn't considered the most beautiful ballpark out there to go visit.
Right.
Camden Yards is. And it was so well designed. And the fact of, again, it fits to what the city, you know, kind of embodies. So it really is a beautiful part of it. And, you know, you kind of wonder too, at cases, like I said, I never thought that the Orioles would ever leave Baltimore because the fans and the community love the team so much. But a big part of keeping a team in Baltimore is because you have one of the best ballparks in all of Major League Baseball. It's become an iconic centerpiece for Major League Baseball over the years, like you said. So, I don't like to be just a homer or bias, but Camden Yards really is one of those destination places that if you haven't gone, you really should, because the baseball atmosphere there is one of the best.
Location's perfect. The design of it's perfect. The warehouse is awesome. Utah Street. Now, there is some approval, right? I think it's by the state of Maryland to add around the ballpark. Do you know much of the details on that, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, so there's going to be, I think the approval was $600 million, I believe, in renovations. Now, the thing that I don't know is how they're specifically going to do that over the time, but what they want to do, especially with the ownership change, they're trying to evaluate things from the business sense and the team sense. Now, the team sense, they're going to let Mike Elias in the front office do that business part of the baseball business part. And for David Rubenstein, he's trying to evaluate what they want to do next. So I don't think there's going to necessarily be a rush to do it. They want to make sure what they want to do is right. And the biggest thing for the city of Baltimore is, how do you want to make this an attractive place for fans and families to continue to want to go down into the city and enjoy? So I think that's going to be the goal. And then there will need to be some renovations, even upgrades, you should say, inside the stadium, because now it is approaching 40 years the stadium's been, 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years. I was going to say, wow, I'm way too old. Stadium started.
I'm 43.
So in 92 it opened up, and then I was born in 93, and so that's where I was going, wow, my math's off, I guess. But anyway, it's been a long time, so there are some things that they're going to have to upgrade there as well. Stadium is beautiful, but definitely those are going to be the things. The overall message, though, is how do we make it better for the community, and how do we make this something that fans, families from all over want to come see the Baltimore Orioles and the beautiful ballpark that they have.